So let's get your thoughts then on the possibility of Britain leaving Europe. You've set out what you call 10 commandments. These are the reforms you want to see in Europe to stop Britain having to leave. But have you made up your mind already? Have you set the bar so high that Europe will not reform to your criteria, and therefore you're essentially calling for a Brexit?
Calling for Brexit. Well, right now, unfortunately, David Cameron has set the bar really low, and in fact, in his discussions with Europe over the past couple of weeks, has essentially said that he's going to lobby for us to stay within Europe, whatever happens. We, on the other hand, do see a set of opportunities where we could, Britain, stay in Europe, which essentially boil down to being the common market that we asked to join, not the political union which we find we've now been pulled into. And this book that is going to be launched in is going to be launched on Monday.
Say book, John. It's more than a book. It's enormous.
It's over 1,000 pages. It's been talked of as the reference book to discover what would happen were Britain to leave Europe. And it's got everything from banking to fisheries to diplomacy to every single facet of what would happen to Britain were we to leave Europe. And we now feel that this demonstrates conclusively that there's the worst option and two good options. The worst is that we stay as we are in Europe, tied to a doomed economy, virtually the only large part of the world that is not growing at the moment. The two good options are a change in our relationship with Europe, which we think would benefit Europe as well, Anna. Or, if we don't get that big change, a change back to a trading relationship rather than a political union. If we don't get that, then we're much better off out than we are in the current relationship.
Lots of things to pick up on there. Public opinion still suggests that, in the latest polling, that Britons want to stay in, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, the group of people that we represent, we believe, have been the ones that have been on the right side of the argument forever. We were the ones who campaigned aggressively for Britain not to join the euro, whereas the people who are saying, oh no, it's much too scary to leave Europe, they're the ones who campaigned to be in the euro.
And tell us who you're working with on this project, who you represent.
Well, we at Business for Britain have got something like 1,500 signatures that were published in various newspapers of CEOs of companies all over the UK. They tend to be the middle-sized and entrepreneurial companies, not the bigger companies. The CBI, for example, has always campaigned to be in the euro. It's campaigning to stay in Europe. It's always been on the wrong side of the argument because it represents the large corporatist businesses. But we believe, for example, talking around the city, your viewers, the people who are on the treadmill right now watching this as they get ready to go into work, they're all really fed up with Europe. But some of their bosses have been thinking that they've been told that the line is, oh, you've got to be scared of leaving Europe, oh, there are real problems with leaving Europe. And bit by bit that's changing. You're seeing there was the news yesterday of a changing of the guard at Barclays.
Yep.
You're talking about HSBC and Standard Chartered. You're seeing the leadership of banks being taken over by sensible people, finally, who are all beginning to think, well, no, you know, this Europe thing has been a really bad idea and has constrained us on the global stage. This book shows how it is much more important to take advantage of the global opportunities rather than focusing in on a declining market.
But just to take one of the... You go through a lot of detail in your recommendations, and maybe we'll touch on a few of them, but one of them is around migration and controlling migration a little better. But, I mean, your experience, and you led PA Consulting for many years, didn't you? Your experience, surely businesses want access, easy access to global talent, and that's the kind of business that's the kind of benefits that Europe can bring, isn't it?
No, that's the kind of benefits that leaving Europe can bring, because right now what is happening is that companies, say in the city, are not being able to bring in people from around the world because of the untrammeled access by Europe means that if you take people from around the world and from Europe, you've got too many people coming in. So there have been constraints on granting visas from people from Australia, from America, from all over the world. If we left or changed our relationship with Europe, the city and other places will be able to bring in far more talent than we are able to at the moment.
When I look at your 10 commandments, though, I do go back to my first question about whether you're setting the bar too high and wanting Brexit right from the off, because you talk about exempting us from the ever closer union, which some in Europe have voiced concern about. You talk about reducing the burden of regulation on business. I mean, that's sort of a very broad one. Control over social and employment laws coming back to the member states. You talk about all kinds of opt-outs and an ability to negotiate trade deals separately. It doesn't sound very feasible, really, in terms of what David Cameron is going to be realistically able to achieve, does it?
That is the message, Anna, that people are trying to give. Oh, no, it's all far too scary. But look at Greece right now. Look at what has happened. Every time they say no, Europe comes back to the table and says, oh, OK, we'll give you another concession. Now, Greece is going to end in disaster. It's a king hunt round the board in terms of a chess game, and that king is eventually going to be toppled over, i.e. Greece will leave the euro, and who knows what happens after that. But as far as Europe's willingness to negotiate with them, they have proved totally malleable, and we feel that right now David Cameron, what he's done, he's put up a minimal set of demands. He said, let's have a quick referendum in April 2016, which is way too early for the arguments to be aired, which is why we've come out with this book as quickly as we can in order to show that the arguments are for leaving. He's been far too minimal. If you're much more aggressive, we think Europe will be desperate to keep us in, and they could change their negotiating stance very dramatically. Back to where we were when we joined the Europe, a common market.